This episode is brought to you by AWS. Amazon Q Business is the generative AI assistant that can securely understand your business data, summarize results, and streamline tasks. Learn what Amazon Q Business can do for you at aws.com/learn more.
We know you have a lot on your holiday to-do list. And at the UPS Store, we're here to help. With our pack and ship guarantee, your gifts will arrive intact or you'll be reimbursed. Got holiday cards to print? We're also the premier printing store. We've got everything you need for every way you holiday. Visit the upsstore.com/guarantee for full details. Most locations are independently owned. Product services, prices, and hours of operation may vary. See Center for details. The UPS Store. Be unstoppable. Come into your local store today.
Hey, I'm Amanda from Trifecta Fitness. We're proud to be Clarksville's new Get Fit headquarters. Trifecta Fitness is a state-of-the-art spin and strength training studio. Our spin studio is truly one of a kind in this area, complete with 20 state-of-the-art live fitness bikes and an incredible sound system. Our strength training is done in small groups of 6 or fewer, and all of our strength and spin classes are scalable for every level of experience. Come see us in the heart of Clarksville, just behind MAPCO at the corner of Old Trenton Road and Wilma Rudolph Boulevard. Call us for more info at 931-542-6265 or download our Trifecta Fitness app for a full list of upcoming classes.
For every veteran, there is a story about a calling to serve, to fight for the freedoms of the American people. And every story has a struggle, a sacrifice, and invisible wounds. Warrior WALT's programs help veterans recover from PTSD and invisible wounds through exercise, nutrition, and connecting with other veteran leaders. It is estimated that 22 veterans die each day by suicide, and another 30 veterans die each day by substance abuse. These are preventable deaths. Warrior WALT is committed to fighting PTSD through fitness, nutrition, and community. Got the privilege and opportunity to support our heroes in their time of need. Will you join us and take action?
All right. Welcome back.
MisFitNation, the MisFitNation show.
We are a show founded by a veteran and hosted by 2 veterans and a military spouse. Our mission is to get people to tell their stories to the world. If you're an author, share your tips with the Misfit Nation. If you're a musician or an actor, our audience needs to know how they too can get into the business. Coaches, we love our coaches. Come on and share your tips with the Misfit Nation to help them become better versions of themselves. If you are a corporate leader or an entrepreneur, come on and show how you did it and how hard you have fought for success. If you are a veteran, first responder, or Gold Star family, we would love to have you come on and share your story with the Misfit Nation. We always have time for you. If you're feeling down, alone, or starting to see the darkness, stop. Think about those who are around you. You are not alone. You will be missed. If you feel like your problems will be a burden to those in your inner circle or feel embarrassed, dial 988. If you are a veteran, take option 1. We need you to keep pushing forward. Don't make a permanent solution to a temporary problem. If you are a new listener, welcome to the Misfit Nation show. Be sure to subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast app. Also on our YouTube channel at @the_Misfit Nation. Subscribe and click the bell to keep you up to date on our latest episodes and all of our news. You can also find us on Heroes Media Group and About Face Radio. Now, let's get to the show!
All
All right. Welcome to the Thursday after dinner show with the Misfit Nation. Thanks for joining us on Tuesday for the Tuesday crew. I know you guys had a great time with them the whole time I was gone and again on Tuesday. So let's give a big hand for them for all they did while I was gone. I'm on vacation. And now we're back with the Misfit Nation show again this Thursday. Thank you for being with me tonight. We'll start off as we do now. Remembering those we lost this time. We have 3 police officers: Constable Philip John Michael, Pennsylvania State Constable, end of watch June 6th, 2024. Agent Luis Algerin de Jesus, Puerto Rico Police Department, Puerto Rico, end of watch June 24th, 2024. Youth Counselor Corey Pro, Wisconsin Department of Corrections, Wisconsin, end of watch June 25th, 2024. Just keep their families and their friends and their coworkers in your thoughts and prayers as they go through this tough time. Once again, thank you for being here tonight with us. Tonight we have a good one. She's an authentic leadership coach and trainer, entrepreneur and researcher. She brings a unique blend of personal growth, leadership, development, and authenticity to the table. Her journey marked by overcoming self-doubt and past struggles serves as a testament to resilience and transformation. Through years of dedicated growth and learning, she's honed her expertise in authentic leadership, navigating challenges, and empowering others to do the same. So without further ado, let's welcome Dr. Elizabeth Pritchard to the Misfit Nation. Welcome, Elizabeth.
Welcome. Hello. Thank you so much for having me, Rich. And I too pay my respects to those people that you just acknowledged. I too had a friend who actually took her own life about 3 weeks ago. Wow. It was like when you were playing the introduction, it was like, oh, it just hit me. So thank you for this opportunity to share some of the things that have got me through some of the adversity. And I really hope and pray that it will touch people's hearts and lives and give them even just that little tiny strategy to do something different going forward.
Oh, that is awesome. And I am sorry for the loss of your friend. As you see, that's something we're passionate about here, is keeping people with us as long as possible until, the good Lord takes them home and not some other means. So thank you for sharing that with us. And of course, thank you for being here from the future, of course. It's tomorrow. Thank you for being here. Elizabeth, I gave a little bit about you, basically a 2-sentence blurb from your bio about you. Take us a little bit further back and tell us a little bit more about you, from as far back as you want to go to how we got here.
Ooh. I like the way you said past troubles, and depends how far you want to go, how deep you want to go. I'm quite happy to go deep if you want to go deep. It's like, I think one of the things is, as we grow up, all of our experiences, we have 2 choices in our lives of what we do with those experiences. And I think now in the last decade, I've been doing a lot of work myself on coming through some past trauma in my childhood, and the way that I saw life, that I saw that I couldn't speak up, I couldn't ask for help, I had to tough it out myself, I had to do it myself. And this tripped me up several times in my life. And it's only been sort of the last decade where I've been purposefully growing those skills, those psychological skills of grit and hope and optimism and resilience and perseverance, and recognizing what those are and practicing those. It's like a muscle, and sort of doing that and practicing that muscle of building my grit, that I have recognized what I can do coming forward, and I can recognize that I am worth it, that those experiences in the past are part of my life, but they don't have to define my life. And I think that moment for me was huge, was absolutely huge. And that's why I do what I do. That's why I'm about authentic leadership. That's why I'm about recognizing what's happening in your top 6 inches, because it's so vital for us to be who we be and who we are on this planet, and share and grow and contribute the way that we can once we have that decision made.
Definitely. And you hit when you said purposefully leading forward, that is something I think we all need to learn to do, live with purpose and live forward on purpose. Like you said, learn from what you did in the past, but don't live by what you did in the past. We do make mistakes. We're human. We're going to make mistakes, but don't let, like you said, don't let it define us. Make it something that it maybe left a little rust on us and made a little bump on us, but taught us something that we can look down, hit that leg bone, and say, yeah, I remember when I hit that. I remember when I fell, but I got back up. And like you said, you had to have that resilience. You got to have that grit to keep pushing forward. I believe, good.
Oh, it's a little bit of a delay. All good. We're around the other side of the world in the day before. So hey, I think one thing about the resilience that really empowered me to make changes and do things differently in the way I was thinking about myself and my life was that people often talk about resilience as bouncing back, but it's like, who wants to bounce back? Because it's like same shit, different day. Who wants to bounce back to all those things and tough stuff and the things that we were thinking and all of that sort of, ugh. Who wants to bounce back there? Not me. I want to bounce forward. And so recognizing that we have the ability to bounce forward, and it's not a whole complete massive change. It's little tiny tweaks. It's like when you're playing golf, if anyone's ever played golf, if you used to do that sort of, that great big whack, and the difference between hearing that amazing noise and having that drive straight down the fairway, or having that, like I do sometimes, hooking off to the edge. The difference is a 2 millimeter shift. It's a tiny little 2 millimeter shift with your hand grip or your stance or your legs. And I think that's what we can recognize today as well, that we can have an empowering life going forward by a 2 millimeter shift. We don't have to shift and change and chuck everything out. Not at all. It's those 2 little millimeter shifts.
Right. And when you try to make that total 180 shift, that's when you usually don't succeed in what you're trying to change, because you try too fast to do something and you don't really get the grasp of it right away. And, oh, this isn't working, so I quit. And then you try something else and you turn a whole other direction until finally you're facing the same direction you were in the beginning, and you're just basically treading water, just treading and running in quicksand at that point to try to figure things out. In the green room, we spoke about leadership, of course, because I told you that's something I think our world is lacking right now. And I think I know you're passionate about women in leadership. How do we get more young ladies to step up into the role of leadership without any fears and just pushing forward?
Well, I think it's everybody. I mean, I've sort of specialized in working with women in leadership, but whenever we do an event, we have 20-25% men in the room as well. And that's absolutely perfect. And it's not specifically for women, but in business, you have to have an avatar that you're aiming for. Otherwise, it's like a scattergun and it doesn't sort of reach its target. So these principles are absolutely for anybody. I think we need more authentic leaders in the world who are not scared, like you said, fear, who are not scared to keep walking through fear, who are not scared to recognize that the fear is just because we don't know or we haven't done it yet. And that word yet is such a powerful word, because it might be like the first time you had to have a courageous conversation with someone about their performance because they weren't quite up to scratch. It was like, oh crap, what do I do here? How do I do this? And it's that unfamiliarity, which we often put in this great big basket of fear. It's like, I can't do that. It's too hard. It's too difficult. And we call them difficult conversations, or tough, or this person's difficult to handle. And so with the language we use, we set ourselves up to not actually walk through and be an authentic leader. So authentic leadership is, I'll just very briefly just talk about the 4 components of it. It's about self-awareness, self-regulation, so that ability to dial up and dial down your emotional reactions and responses. So sometimes I've worked with a leader who used to spit the dummy and used to throw a tantrum basically, and she'd throw things around the office and blah, 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 blah. And it was like, interesting. And so that was an example of somebody without regulation. It was like the ability to dial up and dial down who we are. We're not a different person in each context. We are who we are on the inside. And once we know that, we know who we are, we recognize our patterns, our beliefs, our values, and then we can go forward. And psychological capital is a huge part, and that's hope, efficacy, resilience and optimism. And it's the true belief and knowledge of those that it will work out, not the airy-fairy positive thinking, flimsy stuff that as soon as we get put under pressure, it disappears. So it's the deep, innate sense of, I know this will work out. I will find a way. And so it's belief in self. I think young women, young men, older women, older men, we need to believe in ourselves that we can find the goods within us, that we can recognize those patterns that trip us up. As I said, the past doesn't define us. However, if we don't look at what we've learned from the past, we will just keep making the same patterns and the same mistakes going forward. And the fourth component of authentic leadership is agency. We must take action. And I know that many of your listeners will be very good at taking action. And taking those active responses to, this is what needs to happen, do it. Just do it. Just walk through that fear and do it.
Yeah, and fear is a thing that cripples so many people. It's usually something, they're afraid of something, they have no idea what it is. And you can't fear the unknown. If you know something's going to hurt you, yeah, I understand being afraid of it, like a shark or maybe running into fire. Don't do it then. But if you're trying to get ahead in life, you have to take those steps in order to make it. And I think that's where a lot of people, especially with leadership, they try to walk on eggshells too much, or they don't actually lead to lead. They lead to please instead of lead to lead.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So how, when you're training or organizations, or you giving your speeches, how do you cultivate that into the audience to say, hey, look, you have to be your authentic self? Do you make them come up and do trust falls? No, I'm sure not. But do you have them come up and do some kind of, I guess, test on the stage to say, look, let me see what you can do. How do you do this now? Let's see if we can do that little 2% tweak to make you better.
Yeah, depending on the sort of the topic that we're looking at, it's quite a simple thing to recognize where people do the so it could be as simple as turn around to the person behind you and have a conversation about blah, and you get the they're a stranger, they're sitting in it, oh, I can't do that. Or it could be walk up onto the stage and let me know about this, and it's like you can see what happens. And my business partner and I are really quite good at seeing what's going through people's top 6 inches again, because our thoughts create our emotions, and they create our actions. So we can see that the hesitation, we can see what's sort of happening around that, and then we call out things like our belief patterns, because it's just all patterns. It's just the things that we've learned coming through life, growing up, all of the experiences we've learned, we've created patterns of behavior. Some of them serve us, some of them trip us up and don't serve us at all, and some of them we're unaware of. And so that's why I love coaching and training with people, because it's like I can see from the outside in, and you as in I as well, we just see what we know. And so I always have a coach as well, and she goes, that's an interesting statement. What's behind that? What's the belief behind that? And so when we do it, when we do work with people, it's always very dynamic, because we need to get it in our bodies. We can't just think these things, because if we just think these things, we don't change our behaviors very well, because they're patterned behaviors. And so we'll get behind things and just ask lots of questions, and they will go, oh, it's this, it's that sort of thing. And we make sure that it's actively in their bodies as well. So we get people, all sorts of things. Some things are very crazy. If I set them on here, I think it was crazy. I have to set them up, have to set the people up, and we just go through a process. And then now everybody's really, really concerned. We may do a trust walk. We have done that in some of our retreats. We get one person to wear a blindfold and another person to guide them without touching them, so that they begin to learn to trust their voice. And then we explore, so what came up for you? What were the thoughts that you were thinking? And what's the patterns of behavior that you did? It was like every time I got to here, I didn't trust them and I pulled back. And then we ask this question, so where else in your life are you not trusting someone in pulling back? Because the way we play games is the way we play life.
Yeah.
And so we do all sorts of things on spur of the moment sometimes because we know intuitively and authentically that this is the right way to go. Right. Other times we will just stand up there and speak and talk about the research and what is involved. But most of the time it needs to touch in here. Right. Authentic leadership comes from here. It's not just a whole lot of processes and strategies and change management processes and all that sort of stuff. It has to come from inside who you be.
Right. And you talked earlier about a boss you had who was basically like a seagull, come in, crap all over everything, and then kind of walk away after throwing stuff around, tantrums and stuff like that. We've all had bosses like that. And I think seeing what I look at things like that as a lesson in what not to do. And then you have the leaders that you have along the way that you're going to learn what not to do and what to do from almost everyone you meet in life. Never mind leaders, but everyone you meet in life, you can see stuff. And I think all of us need to start to take that step back and absorb what's around you as you're going up through the ranks. And you got to see your leader do that. I've seen leaders that do crazy stuff. And I would just make mental notes. I don't want to be that leader. I don't want to be like that when I get to that level. So we have to learn as we grow within our belief systems.
Yes.
Got 2 comments in here from our Tuesday crew host here. He believes one of the biggest keys is not to be afraid to teach the job and don't think if I show you how to do it, you will take my job. That's a big thing for leaders. Don't think that if you teach someone, you're losing your job because now they know your job.
Yes, absolutely. That's definitely something I've experienced. And I know many people of the people that I coach have experienced that. And it's almost like the person will grow and develop you until a certain level. And then it's like, oh, they're getting better than me and I can't have that. And then they'll squash them or they'll make life difficult for them or whatever. And so as an authentic leader, it's absolutely like that. It's like the more I can enhance and strengthen somebody to grow, the better our team is. Because if you're not doing that, you're not there for the team, you're there for yourself. And so leadership is all about team. It was like, how are you growing your team? What are the strengths within your team? And we know through research with over 19,000 people throughout 12 different countries around the world from Gallup poll, we know that when we focus on strengths in our individual people and our teams, that we are rather than limitations or their weaknesses, there's over a 60% increase in productivity between the top of the focusing on strengths and the bottom of focusing on weaknesses and limitations. So this means when we have performance appraisals and all those lovely little times that most companies throughout the world have once a year, it's actually rubbish. It actually does not improve team. It does not help leadership. It does not increase productivity. We need to have these conversations all the time because you're wanting to grow people. And it's up to you as an authentic leader to go, I'm absolutely okay where I am. I'm learning and growing and going through things. This person's brilliant at that. They're even better than me, and that's perfectly fine. Don't even compare. This is that person's level of genius. How can I grow that even more? This person over here could buddy up with that one, and those two over there could take on this whole thing. And so recognizing that you are enhancing and growing, because the role of a leader is to influence and inspire. That's the 2 roles of a leader that we see: influence and inspire. And if you keep on doing that and focusing on people's strengths, the world's amazing. Every time they grow and get better at what they do, I can get better at what I do because I can learn more from them. And so absolutely step aside from that whole thing of it's a competition. They can't be better than me. I have to keep them down, because that's just a terrible way to be a leader.
And that's a lesson a lot of our veteran listeners and a lot of first responders as well. We learned growing in the military that the person that is your leader today is not going to be your leader forever. They're grooming you to be them so they can move on to the next level as they're being taught by their leader. And it's that step that you know that they're genuinely trying to make you a better leader, a better human, a better coach, a better mentor, so that the next generation is going to be better than your generation, and keep pushing it forward.
Yes.
So every time we see someone that we train do better than us, it's not that we put our head down. We put our head up and give them a high five and say, hey, great work. You took all those lessons and made it better than we did because we'd missed something along the way, but you did it. So outstanding.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a fantastic way to be. That's authentic leadership. That's not being threatened by other people's excellence, other people's achievements. And that's part of growth mindset and leads into infinite mindset as well. And so that's the work of Carol Dweck and Carl Pass, I think it is. And so that's that whole thing of like, whenever somebody succeeds, I see it so often, people just go, oh, well, I don't know what they wore, or it's like, oh, but they shouldn't have done this, or they went over time, or blah, 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 blah. And so we're so quick at wanting to pull people down as humans. That's what we do, regardless of gender. We pull people down, we judge, we compare, instead of going, oh my gosh, that person just did this. How freaking cool is that? What can I learn from that? How can I talk with them or get so-and-so over here connected with them so they can grow that skill? How can I grow that skill? What is that? What can I learn from that I can bring back into my leadership? And if we approach it like that, absolutely what you're saying, growing up in the military, to take over those other roles, it was like, then I get a chance to grow and develop and do something different, follow my passion in a different way, rather than continually doing what I'm doing if I want to. Or I grow them and they start their own company. They start their own work in a different place.
Exactly. And I think that's when, like you said, authentic leadership, that's when you actually feel it in your heart. You feel it in your head that you're doing the right thing. And a question, I'm sure you get this a lot when you're doing your presentations, is, are leaders born or made? So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, the research is sort of on both sides of that.
Yeah.
I believe that everyone is a leader to start with, because otherwise you wouldn't get yourself out of bed in the morning.
It's true.
So we need to lead ourselves. You would stay in bed all day, every day, and you wouldn't get out of bed, you wouldn't eat, you wouldn't do whatever you need to do. So we all are leaders. We lead ourselves. We make decisions. Leaders make decisions. We just make them differently. We did make more of them in a day. Sometimes they have more of an impact on other people, all that sort of thing. But leaders make decisions. Leaders inspire and influence. Each one of us can inspire and influence, whether it's little tiny tackers, if you've got children, whether it's your furry animals, you're still inspiring and influencing, whether it's people down the road in your community, people in your workspace, in your platoon, whatever it is, every single one of us is a leader. And within that, I believe you can grow to whichever level of leadership you choose to, when you have those skills and strategies to go. And leaders can lead from behind. They can lead from in the middle. They can lead from out front. There's all different types of leaders. So I was talking to somebody this week, and she was applying for an award, a leadership award. She goes, oh, but I don't really have leadership. I was like, oh my gosh. When she talked to me and showed me what she had been doing, it was like, you have been collaborating with people, you've been creating things, you've been innovating, you've been getting funding, you've been shifting and strategies, you've been collecting people. You used to have a support group for 4 people, now it's 15, because you know what you're doing and you're bringing them in, they're feeling like they're connected. She's actually leading in so many ways. And we often don't think of ourselves as the leader because we don't have the title of CEO or director or team leader or supervisor or whatever. And so within that, it's like, what's happening in here? And it's not to create anarchy. It's thinking about, I'm leading myself, and every time I lead myself, I'm influencing my flatmates, my housemates, my family, my next door neighbours, the people sports team I'm involved with, whatever. We influence and inspire all the way. So I think, short answer, I think leaders are created.
Very good. Thank you for that. And thank you for the actual description and identifying all the ways people are leaders. So that helps the audience understand there is way different ways to think about it than just thinking, oh, person X was born that way, so they have to be the leader. Or person Y, he was given all these handouts, that's why they're a leader. How about they learned and grew? They learned and they grew as they went through life, leading themselves, then leading others.
Yeah, absolutely.
And another question I was asked this many times as a leader, and I'm sure you get this as well. As a leader, how do you balance that? Hey, I'm going to be assertive, or I'm going to have empathy towards you on a daily basis. How do we balance that assertiveness and empathy towards who you are leading?
I think it starts, and I've been developing this over the last few years as well. My coach drums this into me: be more lovey, less judgy. So it's like, stop judging people, stop jumping in. It was like each person I come across is doing the best they can with what they've got. I'm going to say that again because it has been so life-changing for me. Every person I come across is doing the best they can with what they've got. Now, some of them might have created lots of what they've got. Some of them have really only got a little bit. Some of them have got in between. Some of them are growing and learning. Others are going, I don't want to grow and learn. I'm staying where I am. Whatever it is, whether it's an unconscious or conscious decision, doesn't matter. But within that, I have learned to approach everybody from that sense of no judgment and compassion first. Doesn't excuse any behaviors. Doesn't excuse what's happened. It doesn't justify anything that, that's because of that. We'll just let them off because blah, blah, blah. They always are like that. We'll just let that ride. Because what we're doing there is we're condoning and accepting patterns of behavior that need to be called out or changed. And again, it comes back to, why am I in this? Who am I inspiring and influencing? If I go into that conversation with the intention to beat that person up, to emotionally, to tell them they're wrong and I'm right, to tell them they can't do this and they must do that. If I go in from that intention, then that can come across really aggressively and not even touching on anything assertive. But if I go in with that intention of, I want to work together with this person to find a way through this. And within that, it's actually really easy to be assertive, because you know where you're coming from, you know what you're wanting to achieve within that interaction, and you have your eye firmly on that target. I'm here to inspire and influence. And as a leader, I want to get this person towards there if we can. Sometimes we might need to fire them. We might need to let them go. We might need to do all sorts of other things around job placement, and maybe even find them another place where they fit better, because they might not be a good team fit. But within that, I think it's the way you come into it and how you actually set yourself up first, and then have that interaction with that person.
That's outstanding. And as a leader, when you get all that down, then you also have to learn another amazing skill that people need to learn, is learning that every person is different and they react different to different ways of your approach to them. So you can't go at every person the same exact way, because they're not all going to react the same way. You have to learn your people. Have you had to teach that as well?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, learn your people. I love that phrase. It's a great phrase, Rich. Learn your people. I love it. You do. You absolutely do. I've been working with somebody for nearly 2 years now, and she's a new leader. She's very skilled, very academic, what she's involved with. She's working with international collaborations and research in different countries around the world. And she was struggling with her team, and she was trying to manage them all the same. And it was like, that's never going to work. And she was going, no, they're just not doing this, and they're not doing that, and this one's not following through, and blah, blah, blah. And so we looked at ways that she could understand them more. It was like, it comes down to what you were talking about right near the beginning, about living on purpose and living your life with purpose. And I said to her, she needed to tap into each individual to find out what drives them. What is their purpose for doing this research? Why are they in that role? What does it give them? What are the jollies that they get? What do they get inspired and absolutely passionate about? And this brings back to grit as well. What is it that they're so passionate about that they will persevere and make it happen? Because when we have passion and perseverance over time, which is like not weeks or days or months, but over lifetime, over years, we have this drive that just keeps us going because we know what our purpose is. Our purpose is to influence and inspire that group of people, or change the health of this population over here, or build the best, most respected company for looking after their clients ever. You know, what is it that you're actually passionately about? Why are you doing what you do? And when we do that, we can actually drive forward in a totally different way.
And one of the listeners, also a part of the Tuesday crew, said he had to learn that lesson with his kids. Even each one is different. You can't do the same approach to each one of your children as they grow up as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes you gotta have a cookie, a donut, or a bagel, depending on who they are, to get them to be motivated.
Yes, I have 2 grown-up children now, 2 girls, and they are like totally different in looks and temperament and responses. Absolutely, totally different. It was like, how did that happen?
It's a nightmare every day. As leaders, do you teach people that they have to continuously learn, be a lifelong learner to be a great leader, or read great books to be great leaders? Do you try to kind of softly tell them that as well?
Yeah, we don't sort of softly tell many things. I was like, if you want to inspire others, if you want to lead others, you have to lead yourself first. Yes. You absolutely must be aware. You must learn the skills of being able to regulate your responses up and down. You must learn the ability to have deep-seated psychological capital and keep growing and keep growing and keep growing and expanding. Because if you don't, then you stay stuck. And you can only ever bring people often up to where you're at until you've learned the ability to help them fly regardless of where their skill level are. But initially, when you're a new leader, you can usually only bring them up just below you, and then it's like, oh, I don't know what to do now because they're learning at the same rate as me or whatever. And so recognizing that as well is about awareness and understanding that I have to keep growing and learning, because if I'm not growing, I'm actually dead.
Right.
If you look at a plant, if it's not growing, it's dead, because it's not breathing and it's not doing that oxygen
thing,
osmosis thing. It's not doing that thing, that science thing, says the scientist. I don't do biology in plants.
We know what you're saying. I knew what you were saying. It's good. I actually was on the phone with my day job boss today, and he said, I just took this course. I found this course to take. You need to take it too. It's a great course to learn more about our company and where our company is going for the future. And that just goes right in with what we were just talking about, continuous growing, continuous learning. And that's what he does every time I talk to him. He tells me new cool things he finds when he's bored in the office. He finds things on the computer to learn. He sends them all our way. So we try to stay on the same track together.
That's fantastic. And one thing I learned recently, because being an academic, I often think learning means pen and paper. I've got like at least half an hour where I'm just totally focused on learning something or reading something. And I also learned that there's other ways of learning as well. And I had to remind myself, and my coach was very good at pointing this out to me. She's pretty straight up as well. It was like, and I got to the stage of recognizing that my belief said, to learn, I have to sit in a room basically with, no windows and pen and paper and listen and be fully present. And I recognize that I can learn every time I come across something that's unfamiliar. Every time I hear a word that's like, oh, I wonder what that is. With curiosity, I can learn about anything. It was like, oh, I wonder where this road takes me. That's learning. I'm learning to trust myself. I'm learning what comes next. I'm learning to make a decision in a different way. I'm learning the unfamiliar. I'm learning to be able to create spontaneity and flexibility. So learning can be little tiny ones. If people's concentration span is altered for some reason, or they're just not able to focus on reading a whole book, do little snippets, read a paragraph, listen to 3 minutes of an Audible book, talk to somebody and say, what's your favorite word for today, and learn a new word. You're still learning, you're still growing, you're still expanding. It doesn't have to be reading one of these amazing books behind me or sitting for 2 hours on a webinar.
Right. And sometimes if you just watch one of the spelling bees with the young kids that are being given words I've never even heard of before, and use it in a sentence, and I still don't understand it. That teaches you something too, because one, those young kids are learning words that we never were taught in school, for one. Two,
Exactly.
it gives me something to look up, and so that way if I ever run into that kid in the airport, I can throw that word at him and say, look, I know what it means too, kid.
In one of the workplaces I was in, we had a word for the day. One of the people was a literary professor, and he was an awesome dude. And so we had a word for the day, and we each chose a word for the day, and we all had to try put it in a sentence that made sense. So that was awesome. That was a cool thing to do. We did that for a month or so, and so we learned all these different words and put them in random sentences all the way along the day. So that was a cool thing to do too.
That's awesome. So Elizabeth, we talked about a lot of stuff in a little bit of time. In 40 minutes, we've hit a lot of topics, and you hit the ball at the park with your answers and your knowledge that you were sharing with the Misfit Nation. I was going to ask you to share 3 little things now that can make a person a better leader. If 3 bits of advice you can give them right now that they can start working on to be a better leader tomorrow.
Fantastic. I think the first thing is to understand yourself more. We can't lead others if we're not leading ourselves. That's the first thing. The second thing I would really suggest is, and I'm slightly biased, always have a coach. Because the things that I've learned having my coach over the last few years is phenomenal. And the more I touch base with them every 7 to 10 days, usually, sometimes 2 weeks, but the more I get that insight from the outside in, the quicker I can grow. And I'm making little changes just like this all the time. It's like, oh, it's that. I grab onto that and I make this momentum change on the way through. And I think the third thing is to celebrate your wins. Often we wait until we get really big things. It was like, let's wait till the contract's finished, or let's wait until we've got this thing happened here, or the child goes to college. And it was like, let's celebrate the wins along the way. And I think as leaders, authentic leaders, we need to celebrate those wins for ourselves and our team members. It's like, I do a lot of writing, so it's like when I've written the introduction, it's like, yes, I've done the introduction. I might have another 25 pages to go on the report or whatever it is. That's absolutely fine, doesn't matter. Celebrate the little wins along the way, because as we do that, we give ourselves all of those goodies ourselves. So we're leading ourselves. We give ourselves the oxytocin, the dopamine, the serotonin. We give ourselves that hit of, yes, I can do this. I've got this. I absolutely can lead myself and lead others, and let's celebrate this along the way. So I think those 3 things are really quite key for leaders.
I think that's all 3 are great bits of advice, and that could help the up-and-coming leader and the leader that's already in a seat right now that's leading. They can do that right now to make themselves even better as a leader. So thank you for sharing that with us. What's the best way to get in contact with you, to maybe either have you on someone else's show or just to chat with you and I guess pick your brain one-on-one?
Yeah, sure. So Elizabeth at waltinstitute.com is my email. So that will come direct to me. So Elizabeth at WALT, W-A-L-T, institute.com. Or people can head over to our website, WALT Institute, and you can book an inquiry call. If you want to have a 15-minute call about something, you can book an inquiry call. And no matter where you are in the world, we can make it work. We absolutely make it work. So not a problem.
And I just put the email across the bottom. The website's going across the bottom here. And on your pod match, you had your authentic leadership book on there as well, your ebook as a link. I have that as well. I can share that too.
Brilliant. Yeah.
All those links are going across. Elizabeth, thank you for taking some of your tomorrow with us. Hanging out. It's always awesome when I have someone from your side of the world to talk to. I know it's still going to be a great day tomorrow because you're smiling already tomorrow, and we're smiling as well. It's those little victories that we like to stack here. So thank you so much for taking that time today to hang out with us and teach the MisFit Nation a lot of new tools and techniques to get through their day.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for having me. And if you do, remember the last thing, if you just make that tiny little tweak, just tiny little tweak, tiny little tweak, tiny little tweak, you will be in a different place in 1 week, 1 month, 1 year. Imagine that difference, because if you make 2% change or even just a 1% change every day in a year, it's 365% difference in your lives.
Outstanding. Thank you. That's a bonus nugget right there at the end. Thank you, Dr. Elizabeth Pritchard. It's been awesome hanging out with you. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
This message is from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. Did you serve in the military? If so, you can obtain a free lifetime pass to more than 2,000 federal recreation sites. These sites are located across more than 400 million acres of public lands, including national parks, wildlife refuges, and forests. The lands host activities to fit any lifestyle: hiking, biking, fishing, camping, and much more. Gold Star families are also eligible for these free lifetime passes. Plus, they cover entrance fees for a driver and all passengers in a car, or up to 3 additional adults at sites that charge per person. Obtaining one is easy. Just go to the National Park Service website, nps.gov, or the National Park Service app.
Thanks for checking us out and being a part of the MisFit Nation show. Don't forget to visit our website at themisfitnation.com. That's themisfitnation.com. Check out all our past episodes and get some of the great MisFit Nation gear for you and your family. As always, be humble, stay hungry, and keep hustling, because we are
MisFit Nation. MisFit Nation.